Granted, I was only a 5-year-old, but it hit my glove
Right.
with enough force to knock that glove almost completely out of my hand.
Hey, everyone. Thank you all for coming back to another discussion at Foul Ball Safety Now Talks. I'm here with my host, Brianna Ludwig. I am Jordan Scott, founder of Foul Ball Safety Now. Been doing this now for 6 years, working with Brendan, the journalist. Brianna's been with me for about a year. And what we're doing is collecting news and putting it on the website at Foul Ball Safety Now. What I've been doing, in addition to working with Brendan and Brianna, is continually, I'm a baseball fan, and we've been tracking things just from watching games on TV. So we're in October now, and we're in the middle of the baseball playoffs, and there's 4 teams remaining. And as I brought up on a previous recording, there was an incident that took place in Seattle a week and a half ago where the bat broke and found its way over the net. And I didn't know that at the time. It was Jorge Polanco, who had just hit 2 home runs. He's having the game of his life. One of the next at bats, he breaks his bat, trickling ball. Turns out it was an infield hit. The audience didn't know exactly where the broken bat had flown or where it had flown to. But going into commercial, upon a pitching change, they actually showed the bat coming from the seating perspective into the seats like a boomerang, a broken bat, a big part of the bat coming in like a boomerang into the seats near the first base dugout. And I was like, "Oh my goodness." And, that could have definitely done some serious damage to someone, and clearly it could have pierced somebody's heart because it's a spear, it's coming at you fast. And, you even had the announcer say on top of the video, "Yikes, look out." So, I thought that was great that we found this moment to potentially start this national conversation because the whole country saw what I had seen. So it took me about a day to retrieve the video. People DVR the game, and they had the exact moment. Somebody I knew had the exact moment of that video, and we will be talking about that soon. It will probably be housed on my website very shortly, but we put out a message on Foul Ball Safety Now under press release, which some of our press releases we've self-published just to keep things in chronological order. People can see a thread of things that we've reported on and other published press releases that we've had over the years. I want people to take a look at that. We wrote the Seattle Mariners. I left a voicemail at MLB. We copied MLB on the letter we had written to Seattle Mariners saying, "Take a look at what we all just saw. We hope that you would have that situation taken care of before their next home game." We have not gotten any response as of yet. So we're gonna follow that incident. There was also an incident that I found. People can Google Yankees versus Orioles. Major League Baseball promoted the video, Yankees versus Orioles, June 22nd, 2025, where there was, I think it's a 15-minute 12, 15-minute 13 video. People can go to the 8-minute marker and let it roll for about 30 seconds. You'll see also a Baltimore Oriole throw a bat also that finds its way over the net. Because a lot of times the bats slip out of their hands, and then other times bats break. But either way, it could do very serious damage. And we're all witnessing this in 2025. So I hope a bigger discussion comes from this. And just the other day, 2 nights ago, I was watching the National League playoffs with the Dodgers and the Brewers. Actually, they were the Milwaukee Braves, and then they became the Atlanta Braves, and then the Milwaukee Brewers became the Milwaukee Brewers from a team called the Seattle Pilots. So I have some sense of the history of the game, and I'm a big fan, and we can get into that on another discussion. But watching the National League playoffs between the Dodgers and the Brewers, somebody got an infield single, and the third baseman threw it. It went past the first baseman and went into the camera well. And I've seen balls go a lot harder into the camera well. That's where the cameras may be, or the sideline reporters who work for the networks where they hang out. Well, you would hear after the ball rolled into the camera well, the guy who got to first base on the infield hit, but went to second on the throwing error because it's a dead ball. That means everything stops, and sometimes at the umpire's discretion or the rule, the baseball player will get the next base. That's what happened. But you hear the announcers saying, Lauren Shahadi, she's in the camera well. Oh, I hope she got out of the way, but not in a way like, why are people being exposed to overthrows by throwing balls? Human beings that are doing their job and they're in the camera well. We've interviewed a gentleman who had a lot to say about the issue because he was a camera person. And he's one of the 80 interviews, give or take, Brendan and I have interviewed over the 6 years. We've interviewed many victims and baseball players, which we may get into during this call. And we've also interviewed camera people, one in particular that stands out. And I can give a couple of other stories as well, camera well incidences where these faces of these cameramen after line drives are hidden there. They're like, "What the heck just happened?" And you hear announcers making sarcastic comments, but instead of them just getting right to the core of the issue, they say something sometimes silly or something that may just keep the entertainment of the matter or the line drive that everyone just witnessed. And sometimes the TV reporters, the TV producers who run the cameras, they can't help but show the faces, and they do. Similar to, like, it was such a crazy moment the other night in Seattle when that bat flew over the net. We all didn't know about it, and we because that they didn't show it in the first 5 minutes after the broken bat went into the seats, but going into commercial, they did. So sometimes the producers are a little off guard because if they were instructed, absolutely don't show these images, then we wouldn't see them. But fortunately, I'm paying attention, and I'm glad that there's a little discretion from the producers. I still believe in many cities, maybe they're instructed not to show certain things. Other incidences we've seen over the years, over this year, of a father catching a ball with his little infant child, and then announcers making sarcastic jokes and saying, "Oh, he's gonna catch some flack when he gets home," or "What a great catch," instead of saying, "This could be really dangerous." Why are they portraying this as a cool thing? Because then dads are gonna bring their infant babies to baseball games, and it may not turn out so comedic or so entertaining. It may turn out to be a bad situation. A lot to say about the issue. And yeah, I think people can learn everything we've been doing at Foul Ball Safety Now. And I'm excited to bring on our guest. Brianna, how are you today?
Doing great. I'm excited to have this conversation and shed some light on this issue today. And I'm excited to bring on our guest, who is a huge baseball fan, Chad Vermillion. How are you, Chad?
I am doing great, Brianna. Thanks so much for having me.
Terrific, Chad. We're excited to have you as well. And from our previous talk, I know you're a big baseball fan, and we're excited for you to bring on some questions to us. And feel free to stay with one question at a time. And if we're having a great discussion, we'll just keep it going, or just you take the reins from here, Chad. So take it away.
Okay, well, having been over the site and thinking a lot about it since I heard about this issue, well, first I want to shed some light on where I come from on this because
Sure.
my first experience with the foul ball was on June the 14th, I believe, of 1984. It would have been my fifth birthday. My dad took me to see the Texas Rangers play at old Ranger Stadium way back in the day,
Mhm.
before Globe Life Park back in the day.
Right.
And I remember where Jim Sundberg was the batter. I was
Yeah.
sitting on the first base side, about 5 rows back, just
Mhm.
about, 20 feet on that other side of the dugout. And
Right.
he hit a foul ball line drive and it
Mhm.
went just over out of my reach, over my head to the guys behind me, but I remember vividly that it
Mhm.
hit my glove, and it hit it
Mm.
now granted, I was only a 5-year-old, but it hit my glove
Right.
with enough force to knock that glove almost completely out of my hand,
Wow.
and I remember asking my dad, "Dad, could I have caught that?" And, if it had been right to me, he says, "Well, it'd have been really dangerous. I would have moved you out of the way." And that got me thinking about so I was like, every fan, when they go to a game, that's the
Mhm.
one thing they want. They want that foul
Mhm.
ball. I mean, as a kid, I
Mhm.
wanted that foul ball or a home
Sure.
run, whatever it should be. But
Sure.
I remember how fast that ball was going and thinking, "Man, I do not wanna get hit by that ball." And so that always left an impression in my mind. So anytime I knew I was gonna be sitting somewhere where a foul ball could be hit, I'd take my glove. I'm gonna take
Right.
my glove no matter what. And that's not being just a fan, that's kind of a safety issue too. But I
Right.
didn't know I was
Right.
doing it as a safety issue. So
Sure.
the one thing that I didn't know, Jordan, after reading your
Yeah.
site
Mhm.
is I had no idea there was a
Mhm.
baseball rule in effect. I
Mhm.
did not know that. I did not
Mhm.
know that the liability fell on the fans if
Mhm.
they got injured.
Mhm.
And boy, I don't know where I've been because that I did not know that. So
Mhm.
my question to you is now you are suggesting foul ball safety in lieu of netting all the way down each past the dugout, all the way down the foul ball side. Is that correct?
It's really above my pay grade. Agencies, there's never been any intervention of any kind. So I would say I'm not really qualified to say, but what we're attempting to do here is start a conversation, and we will.
Okay. No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree that that conversation needs to take place. 2 questions around that. If the baseball rule were to be repealed, where would the responsibility fall? Would it fall on MLB or would it fall on the individual teams?
Okay. I mean, I would say, all in all, they're probably the same. MLB's commissioner is hired by it's a consensus, 30 owners probably every 4 years, every year, even, I don't even know. They re-enlist Rob Manfred for another year, or they give him a 3-year contract, or maybe he's on
Mhm.
for another 3 or 4 years in the
Yeah.
middle of one of those contracts. So if the owners don't like him, they'll get rid of him. So I think that's really what it comes down to. So it's really let's just say it's on each individual business, each individual owner, but it's by consensus that they'll do what they feel like they need to do. That's basically been it. I can go through all the piecemeal upgrades, if we want to call it that, or piecemeal improvements, which we can call it that, but who's to say that's reassuring? It's really not because it's them doing it without any sort of other agency looking into how they're doing it. So it's a lot of gray areas, a lot of people that don't know certain things. We know even with the supposed upgrades about serious injuries in the last few years, and we can name them, we can
Yeah.
itemize them. And Brianna's finding so many things just in the last few months, things we didn't even find from the last 6 years, because I have someone like Brianna and other people may be able to find things that have been self-reported. I'm not that social media savvy, but now we're learning about all these reported incidences in the mainstream media, whatever, but with seeing that so many people are self-reporting. So there's a lot
Mhm.
here, and like you being a huge baseball fan, the baseball rule's been in place for 100 years. Most states recognize this baseball rule, so even if you did get hurt, it would be very hard to find an attorney because 'cause they're not gonna invest 30 hours worth of work and find out their case is not gonna be heard. They need
Yeah.
to they're not interested in that. I'm all about prevention, let alone whether you're covered or not, because if the baseball rule was repealed, that would light a fire under their asses, and all of a
Well,
sudden,
yeah.
the owners would be like, "You make this foolproof, and you educate the fans,
Yes.
and you tell them that the net is very transparent, and you tell them that we'll give them 100 foul balls per game." A lawyer came on the recordings with us, and he was all about, why don't we just put nets everywhere? And all those foul balls, because in
No.
2019, we learned the 53 foul balls per game. You could determine exactly where the ball would land if it hit the net. Let's say it would go in the second section, row 11, seat B. You'd give that person a coupon for a ball. I mean, he was coming up with all kinds of
Oh.
ideas. Whatever. I was like, great,
Yeah.
all great, but there are ideas. Let's put it on the table, and then we'll have 1,000 ideas when we haven't
Yeah.
put it on the table. We're starting a conversation.
Well, I mean, Jordan, if you're gonna start a conversation and you're gonna talk about safety, you're
Yeah,
talking about safety from a preventative measure about it striking fans, but are there safety
right.
measures being talked about, put in place that changes the ball itself? You know, I know that's changing the game a lot, but I mean, would making a softer or lighter ball be something that would be either beneficial for the game or beneficial to a fan experience?
I wouldn't really go into that area right now. I let the ball even be harder, but just stop the freaking ball from hitting and hurting. As long
Okay.
as I'm not a scientist, so I don't really know. So I'm not going to tap into that area. The bottom line is if the
Yes.
balls went 200 miles an hour or 110, because they constantly tell us just how fast they're leaving the bat. And
Yeah.
when I put
Yeah,
two
yeah.
and two together and know that there's 30 or 40 cities that still do not have netting past end of dugouts. And once
Yeah.
everyone looks at foul ball safety now and sees what we call Exhibit A, that 2019 5-minute video, you're going to see kids getting destroyed just past the end of the dugouts. And why the heck are 4-year-olds sitting there and still in 2025? The
Yeah.
world saw a horrible video in 2019 and it's 2025, and it's been slow, slow, slow. Some have extended, some have extended, some have extended, but there's still 30 to 40. I go by this,
Yeah.
there's 30 major league teams. They pay 120 affiliates, so that's 150. And then there's another 49 professional clubs called the MLB Partner Leagues. We know still in 2025 that there's still these amount of seats, ballparks between 30 and 40, no netting past end of dugouts. And why didn't they just
Yeah.
respond all after that video aired? 700,000 people viewed it, 4,000 people said something about it, but that conversation stopped soon after because ESPN did not promote it anymore. And then it
Yeah.
went to zero, more or less. So we're trying to start
I
a
know.
conversation.
Say there's no funnel of information, like how Jordan's point to the video, the ESPN video that stopped being aired. There's no funnel of information that's readily available. So people don't really realize the extent of the injuries, how often it's happening. And the reason why this isn't public information or public knowledge, there's a lot of different reasons. One is that most journalists aren't running any stories, any long exposés on this matter because a lot of the journalists' employers don't want to bite the hand that feeds them. Another reason is once these people are injured, if they have a bad injury, they most of the time can't even get a lawyer because most lawyers don't want to take the case. They know they're going to lose. They know the baseball rule exists. They all learn about it in their torts class. And so that's another legal reason why people are silenced. And then when there is an injury that's very bad, a death, a child who's really, really brutally injured, most of the times MLB will settle outside of court. And with that settlement comes an NDA where they are not allowed to speak about the incident publicly. And so also that's why social media has been such a great tool because people are always recording and they're posting what's happening to them, they're sharing it, and the algorithm allows it to be discovered. So for the first time, we are really beginning to see, and again, these are just the people willing to self-report. We're really getting to see how often this is happening. So that is up on the website right now. If you guys go to foulballsafetynow.com and you look at our 2025 incident report, it's pretty damning. You're gonna be scrolling for a long time, sadly, there's a lot of incidents on there, and we even went into some of the earlier years, but this
It's a
information is
work
not
in
readily.
progress. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we're still going back a few years, Chad. So we haven't even touched All of it, yeah, and there's been a couple of, major reports done by by NBC Sports in 2019 about the time I started, which implied how many people were reported to first aid in 7 or 8 years from 2012 to 2019, and that didn't even include 5 times as many more games in the other professional leagues. It's 2,400 plus major league games a year, and there's 14,000 other games a year. And people can see at the website Exhibit A1, which is Brendan and I took a look at a 538 report from 2019. 538 is a publication, and they put out something in 2019 which demonstrated just how many foul balls there were per game, where the hot zones were. We cut that number more or less in half to 25. And if you go 14,000 times 25, that's 350,000 foul balls. People can actually study for themselves to determine their own memories based on they may think like now, wow, we were sitting in that section where somebody could have been brutally injured the day before or the day after, and why the heck were we there? So we
Yeah.
want people to discover for themselves their own roots. You have your 1984 story, which is pretty powerful.
The other side to that coin, obviously, safety
Yeah,
is of utmost concern, and I wish it'd been more of a concern for me throughout, but as the fan experience, I this is really bringing awareness to me. Your website really is,
sure.
'cause
Thank you.
you don't hear about this stuff. I mean, you see it from time to time,
Mhm.
but the flip side where I can see people pushing back is if
Mhm.
you try to implement too many safety precautions, then you can
Mhm.
lessen the fan experience. So,
Mhm.
like I said, every kid's dream is to catch a foul
Mhm.
ball at a game. And I can see several
Mhm.
fans looking at this saying, "Hey, you're trying to I could catch it. That's not a safety hazard for
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
You're impeding my experience." Now, again,
Mhm.
what's the balance here? Where's the balance
I'll
between
give you some
safety and fan
balance.
experience?
I've been thinking about it, and again, we're having this conversation, so once the conversation starts, a lot of people will have a lot of ideas. My idea would be basically simple. It's baseball possesses the knowledge. They know about Exhibit A1. They know about 350,000 foul balls in all the professional leagues, and they know that that's a problem, but they're not sharing it with us. I said from day one with my big tobacco comparisons after speaking with some lawyers. Baseball's not a whole lot different. That's just the way it is. They know in the winter months what the fans could expect in the spring and the summer, and they're not telling us. So I believe if we knew more before we got to the ballpark, that would have been a whole different history of this matter, of this conversation, because agencies would have been like, wait a second, 4-year-olds may not be able to sit in those sections anymore. We need to think about this. But they never got the memo. Once we are at the game, Chad, with our families, we may see signs right in front of us, right by your cup holder, even where it says, be careful of a foul ball. Like you and your kids
Yeah,
are seeing it. Okay. But you're gonna now realize that you're not a superhero, you're not an action figure, and you may not be able to
yeah,
defend your children from these scenarios. Who are we to defend our kids or anyone else? You brought a glove years ago to the game. You were 10. Now, you may not be ready in Little League to face 100-mile-an-hour line drives. You probably have to be 16 or 17 or 15, but not 9 or 10. I noticed kids getting hit in the outfield during a little child got hurt. I don't know how little, maybe 11 or 12. During the All-Star game, they do home run hitting contests, and they line up all the local little leaguers out in the outfield, right? They're not in the infield, they're in the outfield, and a kid caught a line drive in the head because he's not ready to be facing 100-mile-an-hour line drives. And even with a glove, I believe even today, people bring gloves, not a majority of people, but they do. They're there for the purpose of catching the ball, not defending for their life. I also believe that the ball is deflecting off their glove most of the time because we're not
yeah,
professionals.
yeah,
We're
yeah,
not
yeah.
catching the ball. I would say 80% of the balls that hit a glove aren't even caught. They're deflected.
Oh,
That's my thoughts.
okay, think about this. I know you've heard of banana ball.
I have.
What if the MLB implemented their rule? If the fan catches the ball, it's an out. So
There you
every
go.
fan's gonna bring their glove.
Yeah, Chad. That's I know, that's Ringling Brothers stuff, but I haven't
I
really
know,
watched
I'm
the f
kidding.
I know. I really haven't watched the full, Banana some Savannah Banana, but
It's
they're
fun.
obviously
It's
they're
fun.
making they're making a mint at this time. We have TV
Yeah.
contracts, and they're filling up major league ballparks, so they're
Yep.
doing just fine. I just haven't gotten into it. I'm sure it's entertaining.
I'm joking. I wouldn't do
I
that to
know. I
baseball,
know.
but
I know. I
uh,
know.
but no, it's the fan experience. Balancing that and
Sure.
safety is always gonna be
Balancing
the
it.
hardest thing. It's
Oh
gotta be
my god.
balanced.
If you worked in PR or communications and you got hired by a team and say, "How are we gonna re-educate the fans? How are we gonna now" you know what? Within an hour, we'll come up with, like, so many other things.
Mhm,
Retractable nets before the game. So, like, let's put 25 kids on the field and have soft toss with the player. Come
mhm.
on. 100 balls. You just
Yeah.
give them out, give them out.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
true.
within a few years, all of that, we're gonna learn because foul ball safety now is gonna live, hopefully, in a place for 100 years, similar to where the Baseball Hall of Fame is in Cooperstown. We'll probably, hopefully, have the opportunity to turn one of those souvenir stores into a foul ball safety now exhibit. Probably would open up in the sooner as a learning center and an ongoing work in progress. But hopefully in 10 years from now, we'll all remember the dark ages back in 2025 on how baseball's legacy was. So
Mm,
it needs to happen. We've interviewed so many people, Chad, and all these people need some reconciliation, if you get my drift.
mhm,
We met people who've been blinded. We've talked to Erwin Goebel, whose wife was unfortunately killed at the Dodger game in 2018. And that was very sad. He was very nice with us. He's come to 7 of our virtual press conferences, each one of them. His daughter, Jana Brody, came to a few, and she wrote a powerful book called Sit Behind the Nets. So that's a
mm,
powerful title for somebody
yeah,
who lost their mom, who died
yeah,
after getting hit by a foul ball. And at Dodger Stadium, this was in 2018. It took over a year, just over a year. She unfortunately got struck in August of 2018. It wasn't until Labor Day time, 2019, until the nets were extended higher. She was unfortunately in the Loge level. So,
mm,
did the people in that row know about that for the rest of September? I don't think they did. Or for this part
mm,
of the spring and the summer? I don't think they did. This wasn't even known in LA in local news till months later. For the last 30 days of the season, people were sitting in the same seat that Mrs. Goldblum got unfortunately struck in. We just want information on the table, people, and learn
yeah,
about it and demand to know exactly what your experience was like because you want to know what we may have missed. And I hope that's the attitude of all of us still. If there was something we thought
yeah,
we should have learned, then let's bring it on. What did we miss? And we're going to tell
yeah,
you what we think you missed. And let's have
mm.
a discussion.
What can the fans do?
Yeah, definitely. So you're near one of the 169 ballparks. You're near one of the 30 major league ballparks. That's 199 ballparks. We're also dealing with a college experience right now. A college baseball player who called us a while back and said, "Hey, I'm worried. What are you worried about?" He's worried that a ball will fly outside the ballpark because if you Google Earth Queens College, you'll see on the website Queens College Investigation, we have 3 letters out to them saying, "Do something. Let's start a conversation." These student athletes are worried. I said, "What are you worried about?" He says, "We're worried because the elementary school is right next to where we play our games and where we practice, and the balls are leaving the field on the side, and we're worried about doing some serious damage to a school student." I said,
Yeah,
"That's legit." Now, and it's not uncommon because if you look at the other tab we have on the website, Unknown Modesto, you'll notice that a woman was struck in the head outside the ballpark. So, colleges, 169 ballparks, it's not uncommon that within a 3-hour period, there could be 15 foul balls that hit the pavement, hit the window, or in this case, hit the woman's head waiting to go inside the ballpark. She can't work anymore. Nobody knew about this, but we were fortunate that we got contacted by the law firm in the spring. And then we learned that late July 2025, the woman got a settlement. And apparently she can't work anymore. But were the people in Modesto walking around that parking lot for the last 2 years with an umbrella of some kind? I don't think so. Nobody knew.
mm-mm,
Nobody gets the memo because these teams are not sharing this information with people, and they should have known about the woman who was struck. We learned of a woman who was struck outside immediately. There should have been local news in July of 23, but it took till July of 25 till I tried to broadcast it to the local Modesto newspaper. People couldn't see. I wrote 3 letters to those guys as well. So there's just a matter of let's have a discussion about what's happening inside the ballpark, what's happening outside the ballpark, and finally have a conversation. And there are solutions. We're in 2025. We could stop things. We could block things. Let's just finally do it. We're not going to work it out today, but we may pee off a few people and a few agencies to finally get involved. Like, hey, we should have learned about this 50 years ago. After a 14-year-old boy died at Dodger Stadium in 1970. And why weren't season ticket holders right behind the dugout notified about that we have to put up netting because there's close calls on a regular basis, and maybe it should be advertised as 18 and older. And let's be real, as Brianna, as a parent, will share with you, if baseball wants to have line drives status quo, well, then just market it that way. 18 and older, take a line drive to the neck. If you don't mind, come on down. That's the way it should be, like running with bulls in Spain. If you want to flirt with the danger element, you could run with bulls in Spain. If you want to be exposed to a line drive going by your ear on a regular basis, yeah, but you're not bringing the kid. Why didn't they market their sport that way? It wouldn't come across as so wholesome or apple pie if they did, would they?
Me and my family were in Los Angeles, so we have the Dodgers, we have the Angels, and baseball is definitely a huge part of Los Angeles culture down here, lots of diehard fans. I can't really think of another sporting event, not basketball, not football, that I would think to bring my child to. I feel that baseball is marketed so heavily towards families. I mean, they have playgrounds at a lot of their stadiums, and it's just very heavily pushed that it's a great family fun environment. So even for somebody like me who is not really a baseball fan, doesn't follow the game, I'm just always thinking of ways, trying to get the kids out of the house and get them engaged in something that doesn't involve a television screen, right? So baseball would have definitely been one of those things had I not come into contact with the campaign and now been working with the campaign for over a year, becoming intimate with the victims and their stories and just how often it happens and how quickly it can happen and how many unknown factors there are that I really could never, in good faith, take my son to a game just because I know too much, and it's really sad, but if whenever my friends who are parents, talk about taking their kids to games, I do feel a duty to educate them to the best of my ability because this information is not out there, and a lot of people don't realize that if you get injured, there is no recourse that you can take, and I don't think any parent really wants to put their child in harm's way, but when you go to some place that is so heavily marketed towards children, you're usually pretty relaxed as a parent, not thinking that they're in danger, and that is just not the case here, and it's really important that this information gets put out there for people who aren't aware so that they can make an informed, educated decision moving forward. And I would love to see a day where they can guarantee that it's safe because then I would love to go have a fun family day. But until that's the reality, I won't fall for the facade.
I'm very happy to talk with you guys about this today.
We appreciate this. It's good that we can just put it out there on where we're coming from and talk about the opportunity. There's definitely point of entry here for the legal community. There's point of entry here for the pediatricians of the world. I've had conferences with these groups. I'm hoping, of course, they'll take the torch and do something about it in their local areas. They can establish theory in their local neck of the woods. So each state has different laws. And I'm like, figure it out. I'll happy to be a fly on the wall. We're happy to help you find standing on how to go to court and show them that 2019 video because, maybe that judge's grandchild is, going to camp and sitting in some of those exposed areas. They're going to put 2 and 2 together real fast and maybe say something really loud like, well, no more children until further notice. If adults want to be taking line drives close to the neck or the head all the time, yeah, why not? But they gotta market it that way. That's the way baseball should have been putting it out there. I love the game, Chad, more than anyone, but there's no integrity in baseball, and once people start wrapping their head around the history, they can understand that reconciliation, maybe some regulation and some standards should have been in place and more discussions should have been had.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I'm very
that.
eager to see how this goes forward.
Sure. Well, we appreciate that. And Brianna, did you have a specific question for Chad?
Yeah, Chad, do you feel that the MLB has a responsibility, a duty to protect you, to protect its fans?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, because regardless if there's a baseball rule in effect or not, at some point, someone has to take responsibility for not providing an adequate amount of safety for that fan, and I do believe MLB needs to take responsibility for that.
Perfect. Appreciate
All
that. We
right.
appreciate your time. I think this is really nice and fast moving conversation. And I want everyone to see all the things we put at Foul Ball Safety Now. And if anyone wants to contact us about potentially being a guest or has any questions, we will continue following Foul Ball Safety Now. Been working with Brendan, the journalist, now for 6 years, and we put out work every week. So we should have news updates every week and fresh recordings every time we talk. So thank you, everyone. And Brianna, as always, thank you. And thanks again, Chad, for a great time.